Hello, lovely people. You're welcome back to my channel. My name is Eunice. This is the fifth video on our wedding dress series. I already have four videos already uploaded on the channel on this wedding dress. First is the bridal train, the detachable bridal train. The second is the cathedral veil. The third is the upper bodice, which is the bustier part. Then the fourth one is the mermaid skirt. So this is the fifth video, and which is the sewing video, and this is going to be the last video. So if you haven't seen all these videos I talked about, you can just go through the channel and you see them right after this particular video you're watching. Or you can also check the description box. I'm just going to drop all their links there. So do well to check them out. So this is a sewing video. Let's get right into it. Okay, so here are the upper bodies. I've cut out all my pieces. So this is a center piece. Let's start with the center piece. I cut the lining and the fabric. On the lining, I ironed hasty. I'm using the satin as both the lining and the main fabric before we place our lace. So this is the one that will serve as the main fabric. I ironed two layers of net. I use this shiny net. Use this shiny net, which is what I'll be using for the train, the detachable train. So I ironed two layers on the main fabric. This is to give it that shining effect before we place the actual bridal lace. Okay, and I repeated the same thing for the side pieces. As you can see, two layers of net on top of the satin that I've ironed hasty, and then these are lining there, and I also ironed hasty on the lining. I repeated the same thing on the side back. This is our side back here. I ironed two layers of net on it, and this is it, and this is the lining. So for this center back, the one with the eyelet panel, this one I didn't iron net on top of it. It's just the satin. You can see, and I cut it on fold. This is because this is the one that will carry the eyelet. And then here we have our yolks. So these are front yoke. I cut two pieces. One will serve as the lining for the other. You will notice that the down part of the yoke, I didn't cut it sharp like the pattern is. You want to make sure to repeat the same thing here. It has to be like a block shape, so that by the time you are done sewing it, you now have the sharp shape. If you cut it sharp, you will not be able to sew it. So that's why you can see after adding my sewing allowance, this is the shape I have here. And I added my sewing allowance half-inch round as well. Our back yoke, I did the same thing by adding our sewing allowances. So for the down part, which is the mermaid skirt, I cut two layers of lining. One is going to laminate the main fabric, which is the lace. And on top of that main fabric, I'm going to be ironing net. I'm going to also place the shiny net over it. This is, you don't want to just use your bridal satin or your doll face satin directly under the lace fabric. That's the bridal lace fabric. Don't use it directly under it. You need to place a net, two layers of it, to give it, there's this illusion appearance it gives it, so that it doesn't just look like, let something not just look like a white dress. I hope we understand that. So that net has an effect that is going to be given it. But you can see that this is white, so our net will not really show. I'm just letting us know that I placed net over my satin fabric, that's over the lining that will be laminating the lace, not on the second lining, because this is going to be inseam. So I have the second lining, it's separate. Okay, I did this for both the front and the back. After placing the net over it, I also went ahead to place the lace fabric. The lace fabric, I cut exactly the same length as the satin. I placed the lace fabric over it, and I used my hemming gum to gum them together. Okay, I'm having to explain this verbally because my phone has been doing the most. I lost so many of my clips. I've been crying about them. I don't want to cry anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to explain to us. I'm sure that by explaining to us, we'll understand it very, very well. So under the lace, I placed hemming gum, and then you want to press it very well. So this lace is a very weighty lace. It has serious beads at the down part. So you want to make sure that you place the hemming gum around that side that has the beads very well. This is so that the weight of the lace, the weight of the beads is not pulling down the lace. I hope you understand that. If you looked at the dress at the beginning, that's on the bride, you'll notice that the down part of the mermaid skirt is really fully beaded, and it is sitting very well at the down part. If I had not placed that hemming gum in between the lace and the lining to gum them together, you would have noticed that the lace will be separating itself from the lining. So it will be pulling it down. That it will not sit well. So the idea of placing that hemming gum in between the lace and the lining, or laminating the lace and the lining together, is so that it gives it a balanced weight. Okay, I hope you understand that. And then for my lining, I just made the lining 1 inch shorter than the lace fabric, because we're going to be using the lining to turn this outfit. I hope we understand that. Okay, so that's it. So now it's time for us to go to the machine so that we can join the bustier part. These videos I have, I just managed to be able to save them on an external device, and I had them there. And but the rest of the sewing part of this video was on my phone and I lost them. So I'm just going to be showing us the parts that I have here, and the parts I don't have here I will explain. And I'm sure that if you pay good attention, you will understand exactly what I am saying. Thank you, and let's continue. So I'll be starting with stitching the centerpiece at the center, stitching them together, because our centerpiece we have two pieces. So I'm stitching them together, starting from the down part, and I'll stop half inch away from the deep sweetheart neckline we have on the bustier. Remember, our yoke is a deep sweetheart yoke, and you see I left a space of half inch at the beginning here, and this is it. So next I'm going to stitch the side piece to the center piece. I'm going to also stitch on half inch. This half-inch sewing allowance I'm stitching on, we're going to have our plastic boning inserted into it later on, so that it gives structure to our bustier, or to our corset bustier. So I'm stitching on half-inch. So now having done that, can you see what we have? Can see the bustier is coming out very well. So I'm going to notch the underbust point and take this to my ironing table and give it a very nice press. And then I'll come back and show us how to stitch the deep V, or the deep sweetheart yoke. So I'll go do that and come back and show us. Okay, so I'm done pressing the bustier. Can you see how beautiful it looks already? I use haste to keep the seam lines open. You want to make sure to do this also. After pressing the seam lines open, just place haste over the seam line area. That's the from the underbust to the overbust. You don't need to do it all the way down. So you can see that seam allowance I was talking about that we're going to be using to insert our bonings. Can see I press them open, so I'm going to stitch them, that stitch at the very tip, so that I can now use the opening as the boning casing. I hope you understand that. You can see I've also ironed the lining, and this is what we have. You see, so if you tighten your underbust very well, whether there is pad or not, the bustier will come out well, the cup area will come out well. You can see how this is coming out already very beautiful. So now the next thing we're going to do is to sew the sweetheart yoke. So you can see I've placed the yoke together. So I'm using one to line the other. So I'm just going to stitch the down part, just stitch them together so that we have them in place. So I'm not turning the neckline because this outfit is going to have a collar. So I'm only just going to stitch the yoke together at this down part, following this shape. So then we're going to stitch it to the bustier after we are done stitching the yoke together. Okay, so I haven't stitched the yoke at the down part. This is what I have. So we are trying to achieve a deep sweetheart yoke. So now can you see I'm opening up that sewing allowance of half inch I left there. Okay, then I'll bring in the yoke and place it. So you can see the block shape we have at the hem here. So I'm just going to place it evenly. Make sure that it's centralized. Okay, so I'll pin that half inch there, and then I'll also pin just following the curved shape. You can see it's not straight. Just make sure to follow the curved shape very well. So having pinned from that center to this side, I'm going to stitch that one side first. I will stitch it on the half inch seam allowance I have there. Please make sure that you stitch correctly on your half inch seam allowance. So while stitching, make sure that your stitch aligns with the center front stitch. That's the half inch I used to join them together. So you just have a way of aligning it. While doing it, you're going to be seeing it. So if you're stitching on half inch already, it will align with the center joining. Emphasis on the center joining. If it aligns well, the deep V or the deep sweetheart yoke will come out well. So because you remember we left that half inch at the upper part of the bustier, so that's what we are using to join it. So by stitching on half inch accurately, it will definitely align with the center front joining. So it will give you that deep V sweetheart yoke. I'm emphasizing on it because if you don't follow it well, you're not going to like the outcome. Okay, so I am almost done with this side. I'll just follow through with it gently and keep taking off my pins. Sew on the curved part very well. Make sure that you are sewing on the sewing allowance you added. That's the stitching allowance you added, which is half inch. So as you can see, I am done with one side. Can you see how curved it is? So the next thing I'm going to do is to repeat the same thing on the other side. So now you can see that what I have left on the other side is just that half inch. So I'm just going to pin it this way. I'll pin it all the way to the other side. That's the side seam. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing. So you want to just take your time to secure this so that everything comes out very well. So now I'm done pinning. So next I'm going to stitch. So take note of how I'm stitching this. Can you see I'm stitching from the lining? That's from the fabric side, not from the net side now. So we want to achieve that V shape. So can you see I'll shift away the other side. Make sure you shift away the other side that has been stitched, and then I'll start stitching. Can you see that from here I'm actually seeing the previous stitch? So this will allow me, that's the center stitch, right? So this will allow me just continue on that line, just to make sure that the stitches align. Let them just blend in. So that blending in is what is going to give us the deep V neckline, the deep yoke, the deep V yoke we want, or the deep sweetheart yoke. And here is my result. Can you see how beautiful and well seated the yoke is sitting? So the secret to sewing a deep sweetheart yoke is to make sure that you cut your center front open and add sewing allowance at the center. So cutting it open will give you the opportunity to have that half inch sewing allowance at the middle on both sides. So you'll be able to successfully stitch on half inch on one side and then half inch on the other side. So that's that for this. So the next thing we're going to do is to fix the bra cup into the bustier. So first I'm going to fold my bra cup into two and notch the center here at the down part of the bra cup. And then I'll make sure that that point where I notched aligns with the underbust point. Make sure that it aligns with the underbust point, and then I'll pin it. And you see? And then I'll stretch out this bustier to make sure that the cup sits well inside it, which is this way. Can you see how I'm stretching it out? So just make sure to pin it, stretch it out so that you don't have anywhere gathering, okay? And then secure with my pins. You see? So having done that, can you see that our cup is sitting well? Our bra cup is sitting well inside the cup of the bustier. Can you see what it looks like? It's giving exactly what we want, okay? Or what it should give. So now, but you can see that our bra cup has an excess. So I'm going to trim out that excess because this is a deep sweetheart yolk. So that excess is going to the net area. Can you see? So I trimmed out the excess. Then after trimming down the excess, I'm going to trim down by half of an inch because this half inch is my sewing allowance. So if you allow the bra cup to just sit exactly at the tip there, it will not allow you sew, or when you sew it will be too thick. Okay, so now I'll take off the bra cups and then I'm going to trim out half inch. So this half inch I'm trimming out is for my sewing allowance. So now can you see how the cup now fits into the shape? Okay, so this is it. So I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing for the other cup. I'll notch the middle and place it now. So you have to be careful with this cup because so that you don't have exactly the same thing, you have to turn it in a way that they'll be facing each other so that you have the opposite side, and then you retrim it, which is what I'm doing. So that's that about the bra cups. So you can see I now have two of them. So I'm just going to place it into the bustier. But unfortunately, we have gotten to the part where I lost my videos. So what I'll be doing is to sew my lining to lining, fabric to fabric. We're going to be doing inseam sewing. I'll be sewing lining to lining, fabric to fabric, both for the down part and the upper part. I'll stitch on the sewing allowance I added, and this bustier is going to have a lace placement. So if you don't know how to do a lace placement, I already have a lace placement video on my channel. I'm going to attach the link to the video in the description box. And also for the stitching to achieve the inseam finishing, I also have a corset dress on this channel where I use the same method to achieve this. I will also attach the link to the video in the description box so that you can watch it and you'll understand how I did this. For this mermaid skirt, I stitched crinoline to the hem of the lining. So this will actually help to give it that wavy look at the down part so that it's not just flat. Okay, so that's that. So that's that for the bra cups. So it's really painful that we lost, or I lost, the clips of this video. So really, really unfortunate, but we can't keep crying over spilled milk. What has happened, so we move. Okay, so I already told us that we're going to be doing inseam sewing, so I'll be sewing lining to lining. So for the back, I'm going to just join the back at the side here to the front side piece, and then I will also join the other side. Remember I said I'm going to be inserting bonings to the center front. So this sewing allowance, the stitching allowance I used to join them together, I'm going to have to top stitch it to create the casing to insert the plastic boning into it. And then for the down part, I stitched crinoline to the hem of the lining before turning it with the main fabric. This is what is giving it that wavy look. I already told us that I laminated that's the main fabric. I placed satin, then the net, then before the lace fabric. And I told us I used hemming gum to gum them together, then before our lining. So to understand perfectly what I have done here, I have a video of the lace placement I'm going to be doing for the upper part. I already have a video on how to do lace placement. I will drop the link to the video in the description box. And then I also have another video where I use the same method to stitch a corset dress. I will also drop the link to the video in the description box. I used inseam sewing technique for that corset dress. So if you watch the video, you will understand how I was able to achieve this. So sorry about the lost clips. I really wished and wanted to show us everything about this wedding dress, but unfortunately, life happened. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you learned something from this video, please make sure to like, share, and do not hesitate to subscribe. Thank you and see you in my next video. Bye.